Fears a ship off the coast of Queensland is harbouring a new unknown strand of the coronavirus. Europe records a weekly high of 927,000 new virus cases as governments scramble to re-implement lockdowns. Lagos's curfew ignored, protesters returned to the streets with warning shots fired and reports 2 officers have been killed. And Scott Morrison's plan for Australia to become one of the world's leading digital economies.
This is SBS World News with Darren Mara.
Good evening. A cargo ship has been stopped from docking in Brisbane over fears it's carrying a previously undetected strain of COVID-19. All 19 people on board are tonight undergoing testing as health authorities move to reassure Queenslanders they shouldn't be concerned. Victoria today recorded 3 cases of the virus and 0 deaths. 2 of the 10 infections in New South Wales were cases of community transmission. In Western Australia, a crewman from the Key Integrity ship docked in Fremantle has tested positive. Both cases in Queensland and South Australia are returned overseas travellers.
Anchored off the Sunshine Coast, the Safrana Serval bound for Brisbane stopped in its tracks over fears it's carrying a new strain of COVID-19 never before seen in Australia. There are no confirmed cases on board, but a port worker who worked on the ship before it left New Zealand has tested positive. All 19 crew members are undergoing testing.
No, there's no reason to be particularly concerned about this case. As I say, we've managed a number. I don't have an exact number, but it's probably more than half a dozen of ships off our coast with positive cases.
Queensland authorities downplaying fears despite 2 new local cases reported in New Zealand are believed to be linked to the port worker. Despite the re-emergence of low-level community transmission in New Zealand, South Australia is moving to expand the Trans-Tasman travel bubble. A day after signing up to the arrangement, the state's Premier is now calling on Jacinda Ardern to open up to Adelaide so traffic can go both ways.
I'm writing to Prime Minister Ardern, telling her about how well we've done in South Australia, the very, very low risk here for people that have spent time in our state.
In New South Wales, more relaxation of the rules. From Friday, congregations of up to 300 can attend places of worship after some religious leaders blasted the state for inconsistent restrictions. And gyms will only need a COVID safety marshal when more than 20 people are inside.
This is a great announcement for the body and the soul. So whatever you worship, there's something in this one for you.
The state recorded 2 new local infections today, both close contacts of a confirmed case linked to a growing cluster in Sydney's southwest. Testing numbers doubled overnight, but top health authorities say it's not good enough, warning New South Wales is still in the danger zone. Nakari Thorpe, SBS World News.
Well, the Victorian government says it now assumes the state has recorded Australia's first case of COVID-19 reinfection. That call made with an abundance of caution after scientists were unable to conclusively say when it was contracted.
The city is still in lockdown, but Melburnians can almost taste the freedom, albeit with a hint of mystery surrounding the single case recorded in yesterday's figures. That person in Melbourne's northwest contracted the virus in July. He tested positive again this week. Scientists are unable to say for sure whether that person is just continuing to shed the virus 3 months on, so it's been classified as a reinfection.
If that is in fact the case, well then that'll be one of, I think, only a handful of those sorts of reinfection cases that we've seen anywhere in the world.
With case numbers so low, there's a real chance hospitality and retail will get the green light to open next week instead of next month. While some creative restaurants have made a trade in selling park picnics during lockdown, post-lockdown, a change to state planning approvals aims to make this the new norm. Cafes, bars and restaurants with existing outdoor permits will not need to apply for a new permit to grow their outdoor footprint, meaning many will have the option to expand into parks and laneways with greater ease.
It's quite nice. I think you could do this in town as well. Maybe in the CBD, close off some of the roads and you just have outdoor dining. I think it'd be really good.
But the state government wouldn't be pressured by the leaders of 7 major companies who used an open letter to urge the Premier to reopen the state faster. One of Melbourne's most prominent businessmen came to the Premier's defence.
The contamination is unbelievable and killing millions. He's got Victoria down to 2, where he started with something like 700.
Rachel Carey, SBS World News.
Europe has recorded nearly 1 million new COVID cases in the past week. That's a record high. Russia says it isn't planning any new lockdown measures despite a record 317 deaths in the past 24 hours. The country also recorded another 15,700 new infections. But the Kremlin claims its health system is now better equipped than previously in the pandemic to cope with the rising cases. And Tokyo Olympics organisers have wrapped up 3 days of tests, trialling a number of security and COVID-19 countermeasures ahead of next year's postponed games. Volunteers presented security with more than 40 different scenarios, including forgetting to wear a mask and trying to bring an aerosol can through security. Donald Trump's row with America's top coronavirus expert has deepened in the bitter fallout over Dr. Anthony Fauci's appearance on the nation's 60 Minutes program. The US president today mocked Dr. Fauci moments after insisting the pair still get along.
In Erie, Pennsylvania, as his campaign blitz enters America's Rust Belt, President Trump claiming his rival has sinister intentions for industrial states.
Joe Biden will ban fracking and abolish Pennsylvania energy.
Another target for the president continues to be the main member of his coronavirus task force, a man who polls say most Americans admire. Dr. Anthony Fauci got the president offside with this.
Were you surprised that President Trump got sick?
Absolutely not.
President Trump dialing into his favorite network a day after calling Dr. Fauci a disaster.
I get along with him very well. He's a Democrat, and it's good if people trust him, but it's not that the people, reporters like him because they think he's against me. He's a little bit sometimes not a team player.
President Trump's irritation now extending to 60 Minutes itself, abruptly walking out of an interview with the program after 45 minutes, upset with the line of questioning. He then tweeted a video of journalist Leslie Stahl not wearing a mask in the White House, before threatening to post their interview prior to airtime.
You have to watch what we do to 60 Minutes. You'll get such a kick out of it.
The stoush, as almost every US state sees significant COVID spikes, 400,000 new cases in a week, and the worst is yet to come.
Over the next 5 or 6 months, I think up through February or March of next year, we are heading into the worst part of this pandemic for this country.
As the dreaded second wave sweeps the states, Congress at a standoff over a relief plan. Republicans delivering a $650 billion stimulus package to the Senate floor, a fraction of the $2 trillion deal Democrats had negotiated with the president. Joe Biden today stayed off the campaign trail to prepare for Friday's final debate, as his former boss prepares to hit the campaign trail on his behalf.
Your vote doesn't just matter. It matters more than ever before.
Not by the president's side in Pennsylvania, First Lady Melania Trump, who has delayed her return to campaigning due to a lingering cough from her bout with COVID-19. Omer Den, SBS World News.
And join us for the SBS World News special coverage of the final presidential debate with our broadcast partner ABC America, the team behind the top-rating news in the US. Tune in live this Friday at 12 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, or watch online at sbsnews.com.au or on the SBS News app. United Kingdom has backed a COVID-19 vaccine trial in which healthy patients are intentionally infected with the virus. The aim, to speed up the search for a vaccine.
Estefania Hidalgo could soon be one of the first people to be deliberately infected with COVID-19. She's volunteered for the so-called Human Challenge trial, in which a group of scientists backed by the UK government will expose 90 volunteers aged between 18 and 30 to see if a vaccine works.
The probabilities of me dying or anything is very, very low. And so when I think about what society gains by getting a vaccine sooner, I'm not that worried about the risks.
It's faster than a conventional field trial.
And what happens in that trial is that people are vaccinated and then they're asked to live their normal lives, which means it's purely random luck whether those individuals become exposed to the virus or not.
Everyone in a challenge is exposed and isolated in a room like this for 14 days, all for about $7,000 in compensation. Trials like this have been used before to test typhoid and malaria drugs, but the World Health Organization says oversight by an ethics committee is necessary. One of the drugs that's expected to be used in the challenge is the Oxford University vaccine, which after a setback is due to resume being trialled in the US.
Australians could benefit from these trials as the government has signed a deal with AstraZeneca, the pharmaceutical company behind the Oxford vaccine, to receive millions of doses if it's approved.
Several other vaccines are in the final phase of trials, including a candidate from the China National Pharmaceutical Group. Preliminary results from a trial in Brazil reportedly show no adverse reactions. It's ordered 46 million doses. And India is planning to inoculate its entire population as soon as possible.
The government's efforts are focused on making the coronavirus vaccine, and when it is ready, it will be available to every Indian as soon as possible.
Here in Australia, scientists have developed the world's first test to determine how infectious a person with COVID-19 is. The technology by independent company Microbio looks at how fast the virus is replicating and could be used to identify so-called super spreaders. Lucy Murray, SBS World News.
Fresh violence is unfolding tonight in Africa's largest city, Lagos, with reports 2 police officers have been killed just hours after a 24-hour curfew was imposed. Overnight, soldiers reportedly opened fire, killing protesters who were demonstrating against police brutality. Riot officers have been deployed nationwide following days of unrest across the country as calls for deep reforms to law enforcement grow.
The dawn of a new day, bringing more gunfire on the streets of Lagos. These people undeterred by a curfew imposed just hours earlier, or warning shots from security forces charged with keeping people off the streets.
Just trying to trigger war in the country.
A TV broadcast cut short after intruders enter the building.
I don't even know what to do.
Amid the chaos, reports are emerging of police stations and buses being set on fire. Overnight, this was the scene at the entrance of the Reddington Hospital. Victims bundled onto mattresses. A doctor says more than a dozen people were treated here, some suffering gunshot wounds. Earlier, gunfire at this toll gate in Lekki.
Everyone sit down, sit down, sit down!
An upmarket district in Lagos. Several witnesses filming what appeared to be security forces opening fire on protesters who had blocked the highway.
Immediately the street lights, they went off. People started shooting at us. We were able to recognize them. They were putting on uniform. These were the military men.
Multiple witnesses say at least 2 people were hit by bullets.
Where they're shooting is too much.
For almost 2 weeks, thousands of Nigerians have been demonstrating against a police unit known as the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, or SARS. Rights groups have long accused the squad of committing extortion, harassment, torture and extrajudicial killings. The unit was disbanded just 10 days ago, but protests have continued to call for deep reforms to law enforcement.
Nigeria's government says a strict 24-hour curfew in Lagos was needed after the protests turned violent. The Lagos State Governor tonight announced that nobody was killed in the tollgate shooting, contrary to some witness reports which say at least 7 were killed. Virginia Langerberg, SBS World News.
Australia's competition watchdog says it's closely monitoring a lawsuit against Google in the United States as it formulates a media bargaining code to make powerful tech giants pay for the Australian media content they use. It comes as Scott Morrison reveals plans for Australia to become one of the world's leading digital economies in the next decade.
Rod Sims has the tech giants in his sights, the head of the ACCC coming up with a code that would see Facebook and Google pay for news content.
The digital platforms, Google and Facebook, clearly have market power. It's extraordinary how they keep denying what everybody else sees as obvious.
Under the proposal, digital publishers would bargain with tech companies on payment, with an arbitrator in charge of a final offer. Facebook and Google have threatened to limit their services in Australia in retaliation and are reportedly lobbying Australian MPs to recognise the value their search engines provide in directing traffic to news websites.
The digital platforms don't produce news. Rather, they're vehicles for the dissemination of news. And we'll be all the poorer, and so will the digital platforms, with a lack of content on those platforms from professional journalists.
Mr Sims says despite the pressure from the tech giants, he's confident the code will be legislated by the end of the year. Mr Sims also signalled big reform in consumer data rights, something he says is key to transitioning Australia into a leading digital economy. The Prime Minister pitching the country to be a world leader in this space by 2030.
Our challenge is to keep the foot on the digital accelerator as we emerge on the other side of this pandemic. That doesn't need to mean that Australia has to be one big Silicon Valley. No, we just got to be the best at adopting, taking it on board, making it work for us.
73% of businesses say that they were able to keep people employed because of this shift to e-commerce in the last 6 months.
Transitioning to a more connected community.
This year, everything accelerated that rapidly.
Shubha Krishnan, SBS World News.
Well, coming up next, at least 3 people dead after a devastating blast in Pakistan's Karachi.
I never sought out to be a drug addict. I don't look like a drug addict, so I've been told. I started drinking when I was 13 and I'm now 62.
I don't think I could wear short sleeves ever again.
I don't want to wake up one day and have nothing left. No belongings, no soul.
Addicted Australia starts Tuesday 10th of November on SBS and on demand.
Right now at Apia, you can double up and save with our comprehensive insurance. Simply buy new eligible home and car insurance together before the 29th of November and save 20% off your second policy. Our dedicated specialists are ready to help. Call 13 50 50 or visit apia.com.au. Apia. Get set, go.
Anything can happen when you're out on the water.
Hang on, mate. Mate, hang on!
But what happens here depends on the choice you make before you set off. Make the right choice. Wear a life jacket.
What a day. Gotta sweat it out. Let the pressure out. Push on. Come on. Mo, bring it on. Ion 4 Hydration. Powerade.
Optus knows family life can be complicated. That's why you can share a massive 250 gigs across 4 SIMs per month with the Optus Family Plan. It starts with yes.
Richard, why did we come here?
Alone.
Alone.
Every Saturday, enter the mind of a cinematic master.
Tag, you're in!
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss? Sam? Saturday movie season starts with Babel, Saturday 9:30 on SBS and on demand.
Uncover the truth behind Latin America's greatest empires. Rise of Empires starts Sunday 7:30 on SBS and on demand.
Just some breaking news now, and the Thai Prime Minister has just spoken to the media saying he's planning to lift the state of severe emergency that was put in place during nearly a week of protests. This, of course, comes as Thai anti-government protesters again defy the order taking to Bangkok's streets, as you see there. For updates on this story, make sure to head to the SBS News website. At least 3 people are dead and 15 injured after a blast tore apart a building in Pakistan's Karachi. Rescue crews are still working to locate people trapped in the rubble, struggling to remove debris hours after the explosion. Police are investigating whether a gas cylinder from inside the building caused the blast. The European Commission is warning Britain that a new trade deal won't pass unless Downing Street respects the new withdrawal agreement. The European Commission Vice President told the European Parliament that there would also be no fair deal on trade until an agreement on fisheries is reached.
So the UK has a big decision to make. It's their free and sovereign choice, and we will always respect them, whatever choice they make, but their sovereign answer will determine their level of access to our internal market. This is just common sense.
However, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has told British businesses to prepare for a no-deal economic break with the EU by 2021. Financial crime watchdog Austrac has confirmed it has looked into allegations and passed information on to federal police about the alleged transfer of funds from the Vatican to Australia. Italian media recently reported that former Cardinal Giovanni Angelo Becciu sent more than $1 million to Australia to support the prosecution of historical sexual assault charges against Cardinal George Pell. Now, Cardinal Pell has returned to Rome after he was acquitted of all charges in April. Becciu, who recently resigned from his Vatican post, denies the reports. NASA's spacecraft, the OSIRIS-REx, has successfully landed on a 4.5 billion-year-old asteroid to collect samples from its surface. Bennu, as it's known, could provide clues to the origins of life, and it could end life as we know it.
Rex has descended.
Moments of nail-biting tension as Rex times its seemingly impossible descent onto the surface of an asteroid hurtling through space.
We're going in. We're going in.
Radio signals from 330 million kilometres away confirming successful contact.
Just to get to the asteroid is quite an achievement, let alone be in orbit around the asteroid for a number of months.
With a surface 500 metres wide, Bennu is travelling at a speed of 28 kilometres per second. Earlier, scientists explained how they plan to achieve a perfectly timed touch-and-go manoeuvre.
The spacecraft will reach out its sampling arm, and the sampling head will contact the surface of Bennu for 5 seconds, during which a gas bottle mounted on the arm will discharge into the surface, stirring up gravel and pebbles from the surface and causing them to flow into the sampling head.
Scientists say Bennu dates back to the earliest days of the solar system and contains vital clues about how it was formed.
A lot of asteroids are rich in carbon. They have carbon compounds, and carbon compounds, we know, they are the basic ingredients for the building blocks for life.
But scientists predict the asteroid also has the potential to end life. Bennu could be on track to collide with Earth in 150 years. Today's successful mission will also seek to investigate whether solar radiation can be used to alter Bennu's orbital trajectory. The probe is expected to return to Earth in September 2023.
That'll be another big day for us.
Dom Vukovic, SBS World News.
Well, it was a pretty muted day on the share market despite gains on Wall Street on growing optimism of an agreement on a US stimulus package. By the close, the 200 added just 0.1%, with local investors fixed on other US developments. Of the majors, the banks did well, but CSL and Woolworths fell. Markets in Europe fell in early trade, and the Australian dollar is trading higher against the greenback. Coming up next, the weather, and Vietnam and northern Thailand reel from the damage of tropical storm Sordell.
Join Justine Clark
What's happened in the air has shaped Australia on the ground.
for the final episode.
No one knew how radically things were going to change.
Australia, Come Fly With Me, next Wednesday 8:30 on SBS and on demand. In an unprecedented year,
Reckless personal conduct has been unconscionable.
the most unpredictable of election campaigns.
Joe Biden is too weak to lead this country.
But one thing remains certain. When America votes,
Here we are.
the world watches.
Democrats are quietly confident.
The final debate, live. Election Day, live. And the latest from the US election campaign, nightly at 6:30.
Morning, Keith. Did you know if you buy new eligible AAMI home and car insurance together, you can save 20% off the second policy until November 29?
Sounds great.
But who is that?
I don't know. But he talks to me all the time.
It's our little secret, Keith.
Who does?
Yep. Double up and save, Keith. Does your insurance offer this? AAMI does.
14 years ago, I released a movie film, which brought a great shame to my country. So to restore greatness, I returned to Yankee Land to carry out secret mission. I will be fat like American man. They're nice. I'm killing some of the virus. No, if you think you see a virus go like that, you do that, and I get.
For me, the pull of the Australian landscape is that it's got this beaten, weathered harshness, which is contrasted by these beautiful colours and soft matte surfaces. I love how a matte surface holds light, how it diffuses the light. It's absolute joy to photograph. It's like Colorbond Steel Matte. It's strong, enduring, yet subtle in its beauty.
This October on SBS On Demand, Rosario Dawson unravels a web of conspiracy in Briar Patch. I will burn the city to the ground. Gangsters collide in Italy's answer to The Wire, Gomorrah. And it's James Bond meets 24 in the spy thriller Spooks.
This is going to be something of a bloodbath.
A world of drama is streaming this October on SBS On Demand.
Uncover the truth behind Latin America's greatest empires. Rise of Empires starts Sunday 7:30 on SBS and On Demand.
There's a world of stories available for free at SBS On Demand. Download the app or visit the website today. SBS On Demand, a world of difference.
To the weather now. Parts of Southeast Asia, already grappling with the worst flooding in years, are now bracing for flooding and landslides as a powerful storm lashes the region. Tropical storm Sordell earlier made landfall in the Philippines, with nearly 6,000 people forced to evacuate. The storm now moves towards Vietnam, where it's set to make landfall on Saturday after weeks of bad weather. In the major centres, late showers in Adelaide, a possible shower in Brisbane, a shower or two in Hobart, and partly cloudy in Perth, Melbourne and also Sydney. Further afield, a few showers in Auckland, partly cloudy in Christchurch, showers in Nadi and rain in Tahiti. In Southeast Asia, showers in Bangkok, thunder in Kuala Lumpur and rain in Phnom Penh. Further north, sunny in Beijing, partly cloudy in Hong Kong and drizzle in Tokyo. Heading west, sunny in Baghdad, rain in Mumbai and overcast in Tehran. To Europe, sunny in Athens, partly cloudy in Berlin, a few showers in London and Paris, and fog for Rome. In Africa, partly cloudy in Addis Ababa, fine in Cairo, showers in Casablanca and thunder in Lagos. Over to South America, thunder in Asunción, rain in Buenos Aires, and for North America, partly cloudy in New York, fog for Los Angeles and a few showers in Mexico City. The NRL Grand Final is in Sydney this weekend and the Harbour Bridge has been all lit up in appropriate style. From tonight, the bridge's pylons will display images from every club and will also pay tribute to some of the game's retiring players. Penrith plays Melbourne in the Grand Final on Sunday night. That is the world this Wednesday. I'm Darren Mara from the team. Good night.